Welcome to the Nobody Knowz podcast with Callie Zamzo. Join us for conversations with local changemakers and hear the stories that don't always get told. It'll be honest, messy and beautiful, touching and humorous. Slow down, pour a glass, and pull up a chair. This is the Nobody Knowz podcast.
Welcome to Nobody Knowz. I'm your host, Callie Zamzo. And it is officially fall. And I, if you weren't aware of that, then you apparently haven't been outside. So we're at the tail end of October at this point. And so it's time, if you have a lawn, to be thinking about some things. So I'm going to start off with a Zamzo tip of the week to talk about what you might be doing with your lawn as we go into fall. Because a lot of people just shut it down sometime in September, and when the water gets turned off, they're like, okay, I'm done with my lawn. And some of the best things that you can do for your lawn next spring will happen this fall. So I want to just give you a basic tip about actually the length of your grass. So over the next couple of weeks, you probably think you're done mowing here, but you're not. What you want to do is because your grass has slowed, it's not growing as fast anymore, and maybe has stopped entirely growing. What you want to be doing is continue mowing, but you're going to lower your blade a little bit over the next 2 to 3 weeks, so that you have a little bit shorter grass going into winter. That will help prevent snow mold and things like that. At the same time, you can be actually, if your leaves are on the grass, you can use your lawnmower as your leaf picker-upper, which is also a little fun thing because you don't want to have leaves on your grass either. That also can be a problem. And then, of course, as you go, probably anytime between now and I'll say Thanksgiving, you're going to want to apply your 5th step of the Zamzo's Lawn Program if you're on the program, or just come into the store, even if you're not on the program, and you can get our 5th step, which is actually the most important step of all of the steps because it will actually work all winter long, and it will help to build the roots in the system, in your grass system, and it will slowly feed so that when spring comes, it will be breaking down slowly through the winter, and then when spring comes, boom, your grass will be ready to grow and it will look beautiful first thing in the spring. So the product is called Recharger, and it's a quick step. You just put it down here, the very last thing, and then you can stop fussing about your lawn. You can let it go now until spring. So hopefully that will help you. And welcome to come into any of our 12 stores or visit us at zamzos.com. So now I'm going to transition. Women in leadership. It's been on my heart lately. It seems to be like every book that I'm reading. It seems to be every podcast that I'm listening to. I'm in a fellowship with beautiful, wonderful, amazing leaders that are female. And I think I'm being inundated because I think there's like a message from somewhere above trying to help me understand that women in leadership, that there's a difference between being a woman and being a man when you're leading. And they're important, wonderful differences. And there's a place for both. And as a woman, I feel so empowered to be around other women leaders who seem to be just knocking it out of the ballpark. And so that is what I have is for our guest today, is a woman who is, I think, just doing a phenomenal job and really inspirational to me personally. So I'm very excited today to have Carolyn Lodge here in the studio with us. She is a partner and COO of 116 & West, local marketing agency. And she's creating a spot for herself in this valley. And I'm very impressed with the way that she takes things on. So welcome to the studio, Carolyn.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's really great to have you. It's fun to have friends in the studio.
Gosh, it is.
And I as I was preparing for this, I'm like, okay, you need to, because a lot of times they'll be like, we have side jokes and things like that, and I want to make sure we keep things on the up and up and all that kind of fun stuff. But it's fun to have you in the studio, and I'm excited about this conversation, and to hear a little bit about like what you do and how you're making it happen.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think there's something about that connection, right? Anything you're doing, and hopefully the things you're loving, if you get to do them with people you enjoy, it makes such a difference.
Oh, so it makes all the difference. Yeah. Okay, so before we get going any further, would you be willing to just kind of quickly give us a rundown of kind of who you are, like anything you'd like to share about yourself, and then like what your job is?
Absolutely. This is interesting because just recently, you know that song from Barbie, the What Was I Made For song?
Yes. Yes.
That's like my theme song these days. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? How did I get here? But in all seriousness, I was born and raised in Boise. So, one of those kids that grew up here, went to school at the University of Idaho, and then ended up back in Boise because it's such a lovely place. I think we can all agree on that.
Yes.
I fell into my role at the agency just really through connections, and I think that's why those relationships are so important to me. I was working, finishing college, working at a credit union, and I had a friend of a friend who happened to be the creative director at the agency at the time. So I came in for an informational interview, just figuring out, what's this all about? I actually went to school for journalism. I wanted to be a writer, and I graduated right as the internet was like a big thing. So traditional journalism, the newspaper journalist really tanked like right at that time. And of course, there's lots of options now, but I was in a space of, the world is different now. This isn't what I expected. So what next? So I did that informational interview, and I met a woman who was a media buyer at the agency at the time, and she happened to be a member at the credit union that I worked at. And she decided to move to McCall. So she came into the credit union to deposit her check, right? This was before mobile deposit, you guys. She came in to deposit her check and handed me her business card and said, I'm moving to McCall, go apply for my job. And I did, and I have been here ever since. So
wow.
20 years ago. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's not a typical story.
No, and it's funny. I don't think I knew what an ad agency was at the time. I mean, my brother was in radio, so I knew the world, right? I knew the creative world to a certain extent, and obviously I went to school to be a writer in theory, but I don't know. I was very heads down as a young person. Just, what's the next step? What's the next thing to check off my list? And really just right place, right time. And then from there, I started in media buying and really quickly moved into client services. Again, relationships. So you're going to hear that from me a lot today. But managing relationships and managing budgets, right? The client services in the agency world is an interesting role because you do have that mix of the analytical side and then marrying that with the creative side with the work product. So that was a really natural thing for me. But I'm also a doer. Like I'm somebody who puts an idea in front of me and I'm like, let's do it. What do we have to do? First, I'm going to go through my list of like, is this reasonable? Is it realistic? Can we afford to do it? Right? I'm a very operationally minded person, and that was just a very natural thing for me. So that was complementary to the owner, Edward Moore, who started the agency in 1998. And he's a like uber visionary, right? Like think of a visionary. He is that guy to a T. So I came in and there was a space for an operational mind. And so I very quickly moved into agency leadership, and now I'm here. I don't know. And I honestly, sometimes, it was probably 5 years ago, I kind of looked up from my life and thought, I've been here for 15 years. I have kids and a career, and I'm not really sure how I got here. But I like it, and I'm going to keep doing it. So here we are.
Amen, I say to you.
Yeah.
I get that. I am curious, and answer this however you feel is politically correct. Is operations something that is celebrated in what, like, is that? I'm also sort of in the operation end of the world, and it doesn't feel like it to me. But it's so important. I mean, things don't get done.
Right. Yes. Yes, exactly. It's so funny you ask that because operational, and I work primarily with operational leaders in the agency space, but also in other service industries. And, I've worked with folks that are in retail. So it's not just agencies, but especially in agencies, the work product is creative, right? Right. Everything we're doing is creative and marketing and, all the sexy stuff. So when I come in with my budgets and utilization metrics and stuff, nobody's really excited about that, are they? No, they aren't. So I would say, no, it's typically not celebrated. And it's also one of those things that has to happen in the background for a business to be successful. But many people don't understand it, especially those who are very visionary by style. Salespeople oftentimes are more visionary. They're about relationships. They're not necessarily about the metrics as much. So I think there's really a gap there, and operations tends to be a very lonely space because of that.
Well, that was validating.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
And I'm sorry, but
did you have a moment in that time? I realize that you just kind of just laid it out for us when you had a moment where you're like, oh, I'm here. But did you have a moment where you were like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be?
I think I've had multiple moments, honestly. I think there was, when I first started, I was fired up. I mean, I remember coming in and just feeling like, yeah, I was born to do this in the agency world, right? So the first season of my career, I was in the work and working with clients and working with creative and, media strategy and all those things. And then I transitioned over into more of a leadership role, more on the business than in the business. And we actually attended a conference with Les McCune, who he wrote the book Predictable Success. He has a whole theory about entrepreneurial businesses specifically, but business in general, that there has to be a balance of a visionary, operator, processor, and synergist. It's VOPS. So the idea, and you can really simplify that down to, in order for a business to be successful, you have to have a visionary and an operator. You have to have somebody that's going to have the big ideas, and you have to have somebody that's going to figure it out if they're reasonable and then execute on them. So when I remember we went to New York for this conference, and Les talks about how everybody has a leadership style, and determining where you fit in that is, I think, really helpful, right? To understand this is my skill. It's like anything, right? Take the Enneagram, take all those different personality tests, and it helps you understand why you think the way you think and why that's either helpful or not helpful in a certain situation. So at this conference, Les was talking about big dog operators. And he used me as the example that, like, I'm a bulldog. I get in there and I just do it. And I have an opinion and I feel strongly, and I'm going to tell you if it's not going to work, and I'm going to tell you if it will work and what we need to do it. But that was a really validating moment for me, because it, especially coming from the agency world where creativity is what's celebrated, right? Mm-hmm. Seeing that there's also a place at the table for that operational mind, and that it's not only, welcome, but necessary. That was really validating.
So that brings back all these thoughts in my head as you're talking. The thing that came to my head just now is the fact that there is a natural rub between the two. And there has to be between, and just between, I'm saying between the two, there's obviously quite a few other positions there in there as well. But so regardless, there has to be an understanding, at least enough understanding about what the other person does to respect it, admire it, and support it. And there has to be a healthy ability for those for to be able to work together. Mm-hmm. And I think that there needs to be some admiration on both sides too. I think that's very helpful.
Absolutely. And the reality is that they're supposed to be complementary, right? In the best case scenario. But if you think about the differences in how, and if we're just talking about visionary operator, the difference in how those people see the world is a huge rub. I mean, it drives the other one crazy, right? Like the visionary ideas, I'm like, hey, that's great in a dream world, but that doesn't work for all these 10 reasons, and then on the other side, the visionary is frustrated with me because I have 18 questions that they didn't ask, and why can't I just be open to the ideas, right? So there's a natural rub there, but that's why it works. If there wasn't that, then we'd all just be the same, same style and agreeable, and probably not being fully honest, frankly.
Right.
So that I agree with you. I think that the baseline level of respect, but also the admiration of, I'm not a visionary. I mean, I've become more of a visionary over the last probably 10 years because my role has evolved, but by nature, I'm going to get into the weeds and I'm going to operate it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's annoying.
Yeah.
I see it. I'm annoyed with myself sometimes.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I feel the same way sometimes. I think about the women, the founders of Common Ground, who I had on a prior episode. They have done a beautiful job of that balance, even to the point of admitting to each other when they're a little bit jealous of each other. And ever since I had that interview, there's been this part of me that's like, I just want to get closer to that. I feel like that they've created something really cool. And part of it is because they do have this wonderful respect for one another, and they're really honest with each other.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's the trust that they have. When I was listening to that episode, I was thinking that very thing, that they have that balance. They, and I think they even mentioned, I've had a moment where I was a little envious of what you were doing, and I'm not good at that, and you are good at that. But the respect that they have for each other, I mean, you can feel that.
Yeah.
And listening to them speak. And I think they were the ones that were talking about how important it is when you're choosing a business partner. That it's as difficult as a marriage. So if you don't have that baseline of trust and you don't have a good relationship, it will absolutely blow up in your face.
Yeah. Well, on to another topic.
That's heavy. Sorry about that.
Actually, I what I found is that our listeners resonate with these things, and this is what I'm hearing back on, is moments like this. We're like, tell us more about that. Not today.
Nope.
We're done talking about that today.
You have to come back for that next time.
I do want to shift a little bit, because I understand that you have served on boards, various boards. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and maybe how that feeds your journey and what you've learned from those experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also, I think partly because of my operational style, but just who I am as a person, I have a hard time saying no. So
me too.
Yeah, it's like one of those. They've got my number, right? So I have served on a lot of boards, and it's a lot of them are really close to my heart. Some of them are more just more of the operational type of thing. So Make-A-Wish, Big Brothers Big Sisters, those boards are things that I'm passionate about. Where Your Health Idaho, that's a government appointed board that I'm not super passionate about healthcare, but I think it's important for our communities, and people often need a marketing mind on those boards. So it's been an interesting journey just being a part of those conversations. And I think the exposure to different leadership styles has been really interesting to me also, because there's a lot of variation in boards, right? You have your working boards, you have your advisory boards, you have your boards that I'm not sure what they do. They just are called a board, right? There's a lot of differences there. But again, being the person that does things, when I would get into a board, I would be eager to take action. And sometimes that's not why you're there. Right? Sometimes you're there just to give feedback and sit quietly on your hands. And I'm not the best at that, to be honest. But I've learned so much, obviously being exposed to other business leaders and to community causes. And, as an agency, we're really committed to nonprofit support as well. So I feel like I've met so many wonderful people. And I started out as a wish granter for Make-A-Wish. Granting wishes for kids with illness is maybe one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. And perspective, right? Like I am also an overly serious person. I take everything so seriously. It's ridiculous. I know, it's ridiculous. I am not the sibling that got like the fun personality. I'm the one I'm like so serious. It's so annoying.
By the way, I disagree with that. I think you're very fun.
Well, thank you. But it's a different kind of fun, right?
That's
like
true.
My fun is like sarcastic fun, right? Not actual fun. But it's given me perspective on just what's important, and again, the relationships there, right? The relationships with the community, and the responsibility as a business leader to give back in whatever way makes sense, right? Time, talent, treasure. Doesn't matter how you're doing it, but I think as community leaders, that's part of our charge, right? So,
yes, it is.
So it's been both rewarding for me to have those experiences, but also something that I'm proud of, that I've taken the time. And also on the other side, 2 times in my career, I've been on multiple boards, 3, 4 boards, and then I had my first child, and I was like, I need to back off a little bit. Had my second child, and recused myself from all the boards. And then when they got a little older, I got back on a bunch of boards, and I was on 3 different boards when I got pregnant with my 3rd child. Surprise! And I decided to resign from those boards as well, because I know that if I can't do it well, I won't feel good about doing it. So really finding those times to, I know I need to lean into my family when my kids are little, and so I don't have that space. But it's funny, my youngest is 3 now, and I'm finding myself a little eager to get back in the mix. So.
This is a beautiful segue. My next question was going to be, talk to us about you're doing all these things on a business level, and you're a mom of 3 kids. Tell us about that. Tell us about how the mom part fits into all of this, and how, and do you mother the same way that you do the other stuff in your?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. I always wanted to be a mom. So that was never a question for me. And I was, when I was talking about I'm a serious person and I had my check boxes, that was like one of the check boxes.
Yeah, me too.
Graduate college and you buy a house and you get married and you have kids. That's what you do. And I had kids a little bit later, but now I have an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and they are everything. I mean, I live for those kids, and I love work also. I'm very passionate about it, but I find that when I can balance the two, I'm better at both because I think it gives me the good perspective of each side. I think early on in my career, I took everything way too seriously. And then I had children and I was like, oh, actually, this is what matters.
Yeah.
Marketing matters. Sure. Like I care a lot about our clients and their success and meeting their goals. But man, going home to a baby, there's nothing that beats that.
It's true. And I do think that there's a balancing factor when you are blessed to get to be a mom and also have a career. I think it's interesting when I think back on historically, it was an either or kind of a situation. I think there was a period of time where women kind of had to decide, like you had to make a choice. And I'm grateful that now we're able to do both because I do think we're better.
Absolutely.
I think we're better when we get to do both.
Yes. And I also have to recognize that I've been really fortunate to have the flexibility in my career. So I, just based on my role partly and that I could do some of it virtually, I worked with babies. I brought babies into the office all of the time. I mean, I had a crib set up in my office and I did both. And I think at the time I was able to do that because babies sleep a lot, right?
Yeah.
So finding the ways to balance that, I mean, I had to be creative and sometimes I was doing it from home and sometimes I was doing it from work, but I have no regrets about how I went about that. And I feel like I'm able to be present enough with my children. They love coming into the office, for them to come in and be able to record a voiceover for one of our clients or, even just the energy in our office is palpable, right? Yeah. So for them to experience that and to set the example for my daughter that, yeah, you can go be somebody. You can go do whatever you want. You don't have to. You could also, you can do whatever you want, but she's excited about it. She's excited about what that's like. And we have a lot of women in our office. So it's been really cool to have her along for that journey.
So speaking of babies,
I don't know where this is headed, but the way you're laughing makes me nervous.
Oh, I really wish I'd have thought this delivery better, but there's this fella that works here right in the room with us, and he is one of the producers, and he's your brother.
He is.
Can we bring you in on? Could you join the conversation? Hi.
I'm in.
Hi, welcome.
I'm in the combo.
He's always in it, man.
So, okay, I didn't know. I've been working with you guys for quite some time before I realized that you were brother sister. It just kind of came out randomly, like I knew it, and I had no idea because you're both very professional around one another. There's no like, as my father would say, there's no grab assing going on. Like you guys are. You're very respectful of one another, and I'm just gonna just tell the story too, because the way that I learned, I was like, well, wait a minute, whoa, tell me how that is. And Jody said, have you met my sister? She's an amazing human being, and she is an awesome businesswoman, and I'm so lucky to get to work with her. And honest to God, when I just want to cry, I think about that.
Oh, yeah.
It's the most wonderful thing, and it's unique.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're lucky. I mean, I think about that too. I mean, he's super talented, obviously,
he is.
Right? I mean, so talented. And I think we're very different in what we do and in our skill sets. So there's never been any competition between us. Well, at least not for me. Are you competing with me?
I'm just trying to fill out my time card. Right?
Yeah. Thank you. It's important. Got to get those metrics.
When I got hired, I was like, time cards, what's that?
Yeah.
You want me to fill one out? Yeah.
Do you have to do it in military time, or is it just, do they just say, just...
Yeah, and I have to color code it. She gives me crayons.
Yes.
She's like, here you go, creative.
Yeah, at
Good
least
luck.
I'm making it fun for you.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Yeah, she's very organized.
Yeah. Yes, she seems very organized.
I
I
mean,
appreciate that about
She was
you.
always organized.
Really?
All of her Barbies were organized.
I had
Oh,
like
yeah.
one Barbie. Okay, I was thinking about this earlier. I was not
you
a
were
girly
organized.
girl.
No,
I
but
didn't
you were
have-
dialed in.
I was dialed. But
Yeah.
if you ask my husband today, like my house looks clean, but open a cupboard and you will be afraid. Because you can't do it all, you guys.
No, you
And-
can't.
Right.
No.
Amen.
I have some hidden treasures.
There's the lesson of the podcast. You can't
You
do it
can't
all.
do it all. No.
It's true.
Even
People
when
like
it
that.
looks like you are, you're
You're not. You're faking it.
Exactly.
It's just hidden in a cupboard. Yeah. You
That's
know,
the reality of life.
it really is. Yeah. And you got to choose what you're going to do well, right?
That's right.
I think it's been such a gift. Jody, you've been here for
9.5
nine
years.
and a half years. Nine. So
Wow.
for half of my career, we've worked together. And for me, it's a real gift because when I'm in a hard spot, he is the one that's like, what's up? What are you struggling with? And also the one that when I mess up, will call and say, hey, that didn't go so well. You want to talk about it? This is what people are feeling. Let's talk about it. So there's a level of accountability that's kind of a built-in that I think is different than I would have with anybody else in the office because, again, there's that trust. And he's always been so candid with me, but in a loving way. Right? Not like, hey, you really screwed that up. You suck. Like, hey, that didn't go so well.
I don't use those words.
It's a little different.
It's a little different.
phrasing.
It's a really unique opportunity, though, to have somebody be able to give you legit, honest feedback from the ground floor. So, I mean, one of the things when I talk to people about it, I always think that I'm kind of like the field general that's out on the field. You get the best intelligence from that guy, not the guy that's sitting up in the whatever that's not part of the fray. So for her to be able to get that honest feedback, and I'll tell her, which is a really unique perspective for her.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that won't say anything.
Yeah.
They're like, well, yeah, everything's great.
Well, and you have that trust, so I'm guessing you can hear it from him.
I think so. I was just wondering, actually, in my mind, I wonder if I've ever gotten real defensive about anything. I know there have been some points where I've been like, okay, I understand that's the feedback, but here's the reality that not everybody else knows, and here's the information that I have, and that's why that feedback is off base. But have I ever been real defensive?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I have.
But it's valid because you're running a company.
Right,
You're not there to be my friend.
right.
You're there to be the COO of this agency. And at the end of the day, there's a whole bunch of things that people just don't know. They have to trust that your leadership is smart and that you're doing the right thing.
And then I'm paying attention to
Yeah. And you are. And there's at 116 and West, there's a really cool transparency in terms of the leadership, which is really, really cool. So people know what's going on for the most part. And even if they don't understand it, you still build that culture of trust of like, hey, if you really do have a question, you can actually go in and talk to the COO. That's a huge, huge deal that you don't get at a bunch of different companies.
That's true.
Working in Radio Land, it was giant and corporate. You were a number. You really are a person, and like everybody knows each other's kids' names and their dogs. I mean, it's the culture is everything, and her and Eddie have spent 20 years crafting that culture, and it matters.
Yeah. Can we talk about that? Can we make that the next thing we talk about? Because anybody who's been in this office and spent any time here, that's the first thing you feel. That's the first thing you know. Like, it's not like you put up this big front and then in the behind the scenes you have this wonderful culture. Like, it is you. And you feel it the second that you walk in. The very first time that we were interviewing you guys, considering having you work with Zamzo's, from the moment we walked in, everything about it was, and it wasn't forced, and it's literally how you are, and everybody who works here is in on it.
Yeah.
It's a camaraderie. I mean, we recorded a podcast a few weeks ago, and you all were going to get hot dogs for lunch, and I got invited to go with. Like, my husband and I are like, okay. And you actually like each other. Like, it's just like, it's a really lovely. So how did you craft that?
Yeah.
And how do you maintain it? And what are some of the things that you do that maybe some people could glean if they're not feeling like their culture is quite where it needs to be?
Yeah, I think it truly is our DNA, and we've worked hard at that. And I will acknowledge that there have been times in the history of the agency where our culture has struggled, right, for various reasons, right? I mean, during COVID, that was tough.
Oh, yeah.
Because our culture, it really rocked everybody because we are so tight-knit, and things changed when everybody went home and then they were more isolated. That was different. But I think it really starts with recruitment. We're very intentional about who we hire. And obviously you only know so much about people when you hire them on, right? And then you're exposed. But the word authentic, I think, can be overused. And I actually have some friends who hate that word. They're like, oh, gosh, it's like the buzzword.
But you nailed it, because you've not hired the same person just in 8 different body styles. Right. You have a whole crew of people, and everyone is their authentic selves. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which is part of what's so fun.
Well, and I think partly because we allow for that, right? If you think of, and I was thinking about this too, in operations in the agency world is kind of a special thing because we have so many different skill sets and personality types, right? Like we have this super creative side, we have, the analytical side with our data analysts, we have media, we have client services who are working with clients, and they're more of our, what would be considered kind of a sales team. So a lot of different personality styles that all need to mesh together, which impacts how I lead, right? I don't speak with the creative team in the same way that I speak to our client services team. Right? They're different. They have different perspectives. They hear things differently. They look at data differently. But giving everybody the space to truly be themselves and to bring their skill set and to be celebrated for that, I think that's part of why our culture is so tangible. Yeah. But also, like, we see people. I mean, when I think about my leadership style, I think the thing that I hope is true is that I truly see individuals. And I have people in my office all the time that have no intention of it, but come in and cry. And they're like, oh, why do I always cry when I'm in your office? And
yeah, you made me cry earlier today.
I did. And anyway. Not on purpose. Yeah, but not on purpose. But I do. I mean, I ask a lot of questions and I dig deep on people because I can be a better leader and I can be a better support system if I know what's going on with you, right? So I think that's that's partly my leadership style, but partly true to who we are here. We care about the individual as much as we care about the work product. And that's not just a, core value. That's like truly, I care about what's going on at home and how your neck feels and what happened to your dog last week. And, we're all people first. And I think that's really apparent in how we treat each other.
Yeah, it is. I can tell you from experience. It's incredibly cool.
Yeah, it's special though. And again, I will say we've had kind of generations of staff, and when there isn't that level of respect, or when there's a group that gets toxic, or when there's something that goes awry, it spins people out so much that we have to quickly fix it, because otherwise the culture is impacted on such a level that it starts to impact the work. So that's the other thing, like we're in a creative space, so the trust between individuals and teams is really important, and our product is going to be better if we're all on the same
and proximate to each other. So one of the things we learned about COVID was it's hard to do everything virtually.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to build this kind of a culture virtually.
Yeah.
And by really, really hard, I mean you can't do it.
I mean, you can do it. It's just different.
It's different, but it isn't this.
It's not this.
Because you can't physically walk into a place and feel it if it's all virtual.
Right.
But that one of the other things, when I was very first hired, we were on 2 different floors. Creative was downstairs and administration and client services was upstairs. And that was one of my first observations, was like, you got 2 different teams doing 2 different things, and there's definitely a separation. So when we moved everybody upstairs, it was a big shift where now you could go into somebody's office and it just felt like a different camaraderie where you guys were all going the same direction. And it just felt different being able to go into somebody's office and talk to them. And there's just a different energy. So
yeah, and ironically, we were only 3-4 floors apart, and yet people still wouldn't make that trip to see. But there's the in-person collaboration is huge for us. So we really value that. And then I think the little things, like you saw the decorations we had out for Taylor Swift, like celebrating the album. We know we have a bunch of Swifties in the office. So taking the time to celebrate that, and to, again, we see people. We see what they're passionate about, and we not only acknowledge it, but truly celebrate it.
And invest in it. I mean, as a COO, you're looking at the numbers. There's a budget that goes to that type of stuff. Those weren't fake flowers. Those were real. Like, it's amazing the details of doing all those little things, and it goes kind of by the wayside sometimes, where you forget all those really cool little perks. But it really does. It's all additive to the culture.
Mm-hmm. Does everybody have a say in that? Are people like, what we should do? And then you're like, oh, that is a good, does everybody kind of have a say in some of the fun things that you do? Or is it just like, you kind of come up with them and then I know the answer to this, but I'm just teeing it up for you.
It kind of depends what it is. I think people have a say, and great ideas come from everywhere, from the creative output down to events that are just for our staff. But there's also a level of our leadership team wanting to kind of provide for the staff and to do things that are just for them and exciting and surprise them.
Yeah.
So yes, both and.
And what happens, because I'm sure that it has, what happens when you have somebody who you have hired and you start through and you start to realize that they don't fit, that they're...
I'm not the
Jody's
COO.
laughing.
Yeah.
I just know how
Jody's
it is.
like, I'll be in here making a radio spot, okay?
You do get to shut your door and hide out a little bit.
seriously.
It is pretty nice.
I think it shows itself pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And sometimes those people self-select out because they realize it's just not for them. And I will add that agency world is not for everybody. It can be challenging, and there's a lot of pressure and deadlines, and people think that marketing is the end of the world, and so it's not for everybody. So either they recognize it's not for them and they'll depart on their own, or there's some hard conversations. But I will say that one of my favorite things in my role is finding the opportunity to look at somebody's skill set and match it with a business need and kind of find that sweet spot. So there have been times where we've hired somebody for one role and quickly realized that wasn't the right fit, but yet we've found another place for them because they're the right person, just not in the right seat. And I think that a lot of what we do in marketing is matchmaking, right? We're matching, a client with a nonprofit that maybe makes sense, or even just like target market, right? What's the product and who's the appropriate target market? Like everything, we're always thinking about what makes sense from a community standpoint and how things work together. So in my role, really finding the ways to encourage and support individuals, and specifically for me, young women. I'm really passionate about that, about finding the way to help them blossom and to help them see their own value. That's so rewarding. And I think it's easy to overlook, and I could easily just be in a very hands-off, here's what the budget says and here's what the role looks like. But I love to find that sweet spot that works for both the business and gives the individual the opportunity to blossom.
So on that note, I love that, by the way. I love that about you. On that note, what is some like high level advice if we have a youthful young woman, and I guess it could be just a young leader in general, somebody who wants to be a leader. Do you have some advice for somebody who is hoping to someday be leading a group and that maybe is occupying one spot at this point, but is really looking forward to leading people at some point?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I don't know when in my life I became a leader. Like I just got in there. Like I didn't realize that I wasn't in charge ever. And so I just assumed I was in charge and just, right, Jody? That's pretty accurate.
That is accurate.
But on that note, I think you got to show up. You got to act like a leader before you're going to be in a leadership position. So, I tell people that all the time. You can be in a leadership role without a leadership title all day long. Yes, and the way that you show up and the way that you support others and the way that you push for initiatives and take initiative and, it really is just about how you choose to show up. And that's the kind of behavior that then will be recognized, and then you'll be asked to join a board or asked to move into a leadership position. But I don't think that I'm sure there are industries where this happens, but in the world that I live in, that it's not like you've been here for 7.25 years, and so now you are a leader, right? Like it's not formulaic like that. Yeah. So some of it's personality, right? Do you have the personality where you want to be thinking more about the team than you do want to be thinking about yourself? Do you take initiative? Are you going to go in and wrangle things? Are you willing to address conflict? Like that one's huge. Yes. If you have a leader who won't address conflict, it's going to cause problems across the board. So again, some of that's personality, some of it's style, but I think there are ways in which young leaders can emerge on their own just by taking initiative on projects.
Yeah. They could also just be narcissistic and take the helm and just...
Right. That too. I mean, self-awareness is a beautiful thing, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes if you're going to, and I say that I was a bulldog, I like to believe that I looked around the room and like, hey, nobody else is taking this, so I think I'll do it, right? But I do also, and Jody's been such a great resource for this, but I check in with people a lot. Like with our leadership team, I am constantly like, hey, check me on this. Am I off base here? Here's what I am seeing. Am I missing something? Or has something changed that I'm not aware of that makes my perspective completely outdated? So I think that's another part of leadership of like, recognize that you don't know it all. And there may have been a time that you knew it and it's no longer true, right?
Yeah.
And we've experienced that in a significant way in the last 5 to 10 years. Things have changed so much in our industry that to pretend that you know it all today would be silly.
Yeah. Yeah. I always find that, because there are times where you're like, I know. And usually that's when I need to stop.
Exactly.
Usually I'm probably way off base because there's a reason why I'm dying on that mountain for some reason. And I'm not humbling myself and asking questions instead of, so yeah, I certainly.
Isn't that an interesting thing though? Those moments when you're willing to die on the hill for it. That it is good self-awareness. Why do I feel so strongly about this?
Yeah.
I'm a pretty principled person in general. Like I have a real like that is right and that is wrong and this is how things should work, right? And I've been really humbled, especially since COVID, I would say. But I mean, with my kids, I've been humbled all the way through life. I've made so many mistakes. Yeah. But just that recognition that I there is not really the black and white that I had hoped for.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of gray area and there's a lot of instances where the situation is just a lot more complicated than what my principled mind would lead me to believe. Right?
Yeah.
So that...
And I think as a leader, there's a certain amount of, you've got to do a gut check and you have to trust it. Sometimes that's the hardest thing for me. I will feel something and I'll be like, and sometimes I just want to override it because logically this is what we should be doing, but there's that feeling.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll slow down here for a second because it's not quite right yet. And that's very hard.
And to trust your gut. I mean, that's so important and also hard, especially when we're in a role where we tend to rely on data to say, oh, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting challenge, I think.
Good challenge.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, speaking of challenges, what's next for you? What is there something on the horizon that you're kind of looking forward to, either in your personal life or work life?
Yeah, I don't. That whole thing about being like the box checker and the.
What's the next box?
Yeah, what's next? I honestly, I'm not really sure. I'm not necessarily a visionary. I'm pretty like head down, one foot in front of the other. What's the next right thing? Right. That's something I live by. Do the next right thing.
Yeah.
But I coach COOs nationwide that work for agencies.
Oh wow.
And I also help recruit. So for a CEO that's growing their agency and has gotten to a level where they need a COO. But for either size or complexity, whatever reason, I help recruit and hire and train and then coach from there. And I love that. I just working with young leaders and really being that sounding board in a role that is so lonely, as I mentioned earlier, and being able to validate some of the frustrations and the feelings and obviously give some advice here and there. I like that role. And I also see there's so much more to do within the agency. So I'm not sure what that looks like moving forward, but I love how it all has kind of dovetailed into this little space that I'm in that, like you said, not really a celebrated role, but has become something that I can really lean into and that I can utilize to support other women. I actually missed a whole syllable in the word women.
Was it?
I don't know. I was like, in which I can help support women.
Oh.
Women? I don't, women. Use your words. Come on.
You're being too critical of yourself. I didn't hear it.
Okay, good.
I didn't hear it. I usually kind of cue in on that stuff. I'm, she really screwed up.
Yeah,
that.
wow.
Anybody hear that?
You guys see that?
Carolyn's not perfect.
Nope,
turns
she's
out.
not. Mm-mm. Just look in her cupboards.
All right, let's try this again. Well, speaking of dovetailing, I'm going to go ahead and dovetail a little word from our sponsor here. This episode is brought to you by Zamzows, your local source for garden, pet, and planet-friendly products. At Zamzows, we believe great things grow when you invest in them, whether that's a backyard garden, a business, or your own leadership journey.
Nobody knows like Zamzows.
All right, it's now that time of the show that we call Sharing is Caring. Really, it's rapid fire questions.
Love it.
Are you ready?
Yeah, bring it.
Okay, so here's the first question. How about a woman leader or a mentor that you admire?
I have a wonderful business coach. Her name is Jane. She's with Empower for Growth, and she coaches through a sports psychology lens.
Oh.
And it's amazing. I mean, the level of accountability, but also, like, she's so kind. But I think, sometimes counseling can be a little soft for a person like me, at least. And so I love when she just lays it out for me in a sports metaphor that just clicks for me. And there's so much empowerment through that. Like, I have the film. I know I can do this because I have the film that shows that I did it before. It's pretty cool.
That is cool.
She's amazing.
She sounds wonderful. Coaching, mentoring, it's a must. So if you are a young leader and you have not invested in that, I highly recommend.
Absolutely. That's what I should have said. Get a good coach.
It's a game changer.
For the emerging leaders. Absolutely.
Yeah. I was calling my coach my corner man because a lot of times it seems like I'm in the boxing ring, boxing away, and then I go to the corner and he's the one who's like, he's hitting with his left today. You got to, be ready to whatever.
Yes.
And so it just seemed like he could see things from a perspective that would help me kind of reframe things a little bit.
Absolutely. My coach will take she'll ask me a question, and then I will say something, and she'll repeat it back to me, and it's like I have never heard the thought that she said.
Just came out of your own mouth.
Did I seriously just say that? But there's something about how she turns it back to me that is so insightful that I am not seeing, even though it came out of my mouth. Right.
Yeah.
But having those people in your corner is so important.
It is. I will say, because if people are listening right, they're like, that sounds scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is scary. But once you're in it, it's like a big glass of water, and you've just walked through the desert, and you're drinking it, and you're like, oh, this is what I needed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to have somebody in your corner. I mean, scary, yes, but who doesn't want somebody in their corner?
Yeah, absolutely. And perspective. There's a perspective there from a coach. Anyway, I guess we could go on and on about that one, but it's good stuff. Okay, how about a book, a podcast, or a quote that is guiding you lately? Okay,
I'm going to go to two books that I go back to over and over again. They're kind of similar in content, but it's just the approach that's different. The first is Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Giving an F Word.
I've read that. That's a
so
good one.
And then the other one is The Untethered Soul, The Journey Beyond Yourself. So similar books in just that I boil them down to like, stop taking everything so seriously. There's a part in The Untethered Soul about not letting your thorns snag. I think it's called the inner thorn. But I get riled up about stuff, and I will think about a conversation or a text or something, a word that I misspoke, something that I missed a syllable, and I'm out of my head about it.
You would never do that.
No. But this book was just like so freeing for me of like, stop, the idea of we all have little thorns that are created based on our own experiences or trauma or whatever it is. Don't let your thorn snag. Like, it's not a big enough deal, and it is taking all of your energy when you do that. So, such a freeing book.
I feel like that was written for me. I will be reading that book.
Yes, you will.
All right. How about a local business or a creative that excites you?
Ooh, okay. So this I find interesting because if you look around our valley, the amount of creativity across industries is just remarkable, right? I mean, we have, obviously, like, we're in the creative sphere of Boise, and we have a really talented pool of agencies and creatives and freelancers and production companies, and that's amazing. I think seeing Athletic Club Boise come to town, the new soccer team, is just so amazing. I mean, there's such a big soccer community here, and then tying into the Basque history, and I think that's amazing. Wasmouth Center for Human Rights, what they're doing is just beautiful, and just the education around human rights and celebrating that and treating everybody with dignity. I think again, I'm back to community and connections, but look at that. And then you look at all of the restaurants and the art and the music scene. And I mean, what a vibrant community we have. And we are so lucky to live here.
I agree. It kind of surprises me, especially growing up here. So it hasn't always been this way.
No, it hasn't. No, it has changed a lot, but I think for the most part in good ways.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, how about something outside of work that's been recharging you?
This is a theme, actually. My kids, obviously, are just, I couldn't say enough about them. They're so much fun. But I have been on the soccer fields and the football fields every weekend, all weekend for the last couple months. And there is something about being at a game that I don't pay attention to my phone. I'm not thinking about an email. I'm not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about any of those things that I feel like I did wrong, right? I'm just so immersed in it, and it's so fun. I was there all weekend, and my voice literally my throat was sore from just cheering my kids on. That's so
wonderful.
Fun.
So it's funny. Obviously, we're free birds now, as my husband would say, empty nesters. My daughter played volleyball, and we did a lot of that. Now we've become the randos that go to people's soccer games that are not our kids.
Yes. But that community, again, when people come to my kids' games who I wouldn't necessarily expect, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And the kids love it. And
we totally get into it too. No, these aren't totally random. There's one, a child of one of our friends that's playing soccer, and we'll go out to his games, and but we get totally into it. We'll be yelling, and we're like, yeah. Now I know like some of the kids' names, and they're probably like, who are you? You know my name, and you're yelling for me to, yeah, whatever. It's great. I love it,
gosh,
though.
it's so raw, being out there just cheering and the
it's fun.
Triumph of the human spirit.
Yes,
I love it.
And I love it. They're out running around and they're getting exercise, and it's just like it's so great for them. So it's kind of fun just to be supportive of something that is good that they're doing. So we're happy to do that. Okay, this is off script. That's one more question I have for you.
Gosh,
I know.
Okay.
I know. Apologies, but I think you can answer this pretty easily. You mentioned that your education was in writing. Do you have a book in you?
I do. I do. It's so funny. I think about it a lot. And I think part of it is I frankly don't have time right now with 3 little kids and all the things. But I actually have a children's book that I'm have halfway written in my head. And then I do want to write a book. I just am not quite sure what it's going to be about yet. I'm waiting for that little spark of inspiration. But when you ask what's next, I didn't want to say that out loud, because then I actually I feel like I have to do it. Once you say it, then you're like, oh yeah, someday. Yes. Yeah. I don't know when, but yes.
Okay, well, so here's me filleting myself a little bit. About a year ago, started a book, and I'm actually about 25,000 words into it.
Wow.
And I stopped, I think, sometime in January or February, and I have not gone back to it. So it's just sitting there. So I also have one in me, but it's on pause for various reasons. I had to get a kid graduated. Now I really don't have an excuse, but
now you
still haven't gone back to it.
You have time, Freebird.
Here's the problem with writing a book, especially nonfiction, is it takes it out of you. You have to think about things, and who wants to do that?
It takes energy. Yeah. I mean, think about it. Writer's block is a real thing. Yeah. I think you have to be in the right mental space and have the time and energy to put toward it.
Absolutely. I joined a group where we do these writing blocks. And so it was on Zoom, and you literally log on and you tell everybody what you're going to be writing on. Then everybody goes, you turn off your screen, but everybody stays live. And you work during that 2 hours straight. And at the end, everybody comes back, says how it went. And some people are like, I took a nap. And some people are like, I couldn't. Or some people are like, I wrote, this many words. And people cheer each other on. And then they ask questions like, have you ever run into this? And so it's kind of a cool group to be able to do that. And everybody's writing something different too. So it's not like some are memoirs and some are, nonfiction, some are fiction, some, so it's an interesting group.
I love the structure to that, though. I think part of it is I don't have any structure or accountability to do it, right? It's all in my head right now. So maybe someday.
Yeah. Well, let me know.
Okay.
I can give you the information on that.
For
sure.
Good
stuff.
For sure.
Okay. It's now time to ask you the question we ask all of our guests. Now, I'm going to preempt this. I keep adding all these things to this. There are no rules.
Okay.
So if you're going to ask me a question on it, ask it to yourself and answer it yourself, and then answer the question, because there are no rules. It can be anything you want to say. So, Carolyn, what is something that nobody knows?
You know what I have found really to be humorous? So first off, the name of this segment, I think, is just the best thing ever, right? But in many episodes, people are like, well, can somebody know?
Yeah.
It's like, one, I don't want to tell my deepest, darkest secret.
Right.
And two, I'm kind of an open book. So I am not a person that deals in regret. I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, and especially the hard things. I think there's always a lesson, and I think there's always opportunity for growth. So there's nothing in my life that I really regret, except not taking my daughter to the Eras tour.
Oh,
I am heartbroken over. How did I miss
the same
that?
regret? I have the same. And I've taken her to some fantastic concerts in her lifetime, but that was one of them. I feel the same way.
And why? Like, what was I thinking?
Yeah. I don't know. I was thinking the same thing. I think we were so busy. It was a busy summer. It was a busy year. And we had all the excuses in the world, but there were people who were busier than me that went.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And Taylor Swift, I mean, obviously, so talented, such an amazing businesswoman. So
Yes.
for all the reasons, I'm regretting that. I'm going to make it up. Taylor Swift, go on another tour so I can take my daughter, please.
Oh, she will.
Yes.
I suspect that she will.
I suspect, yes.
Yes. Carolyn, thank you for being here in the studio with me today. I appreciate this so much. Thank you for being my friend.
Yes.
This has meant a lot to me. And thank you. The audience probably has no idea. There is an age difference, and I am older than you.
Barely.
And I look
Barely.
up to you. I look up to you, and I look at the things that you're doing, and I look at the way that you just take on the world, and you are inspirational to me. And I know there are a lot of people who love following you. So thank you for being a leader in this community and for your business. And thanks for being on the show and sharing your insights.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
Appreciate you.
Yes, absolutely. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please be sure to follow the podcast and leave a review. And remember, the best stories start when we lead with a purpose. Next week, we'll hear from another incredible voice shaping Treasure Valley. And until then, thanks for listening.